I think that'll work. Alright, we have the Tacoma completely wrapped from floor to ceiling, all the way down to the floor. Got it taped down everywhere. Taped down, taped up. Got my fan going because I was pulling dust out of here just a little bit ago. It's your favorite time. Ready to put some paint on this thing. So, I'm going to hit the top with some sealer on the hood and up here on top of the truck. Up here. I'm going to seal it up. Gotta make one more pass with my wax and grease remover. There's some reddish colored dust, dried nastiness up here. So I'll make one more pass with the wax and grease remover. Then we're going to seal the top, seal the hood, and come back. And when I do my first coat of base on the hood and on top of the truck, I'm going to go through and dust some base coat in these areas where I had a little bit of burn through the color. Like here, an area there that I fixed with some primer. And let's see, back here where I fixed the dent in the tailgate, we're going to go ahead and take care of putting some base coat on that. And just some little miscellaneous areas throughout the truck where I had some slight areas of burn through. There were not a lot, just a few. There's a little tiny one right there. Some here on this door. Right there. Right there. Hit this little spot. Maybe hit that spot right there where there's a little bit of color burn through. Whew, camera's struggling. Hit that little spot right there. My reason for that is when I come to do my full dust coat on the base for the rest of the body, I'm not going to put 2 coats of base everywhere. There'll be 2 coats of base on everything that's sealed, like the hood and the top of the truck, but the rest of the coat's really just going to get kind of a control coat to even out the color to make sure that everything looks consistent from top to bottom. That's my reason for doing that. So if you're wondering, that's why. And you can tell this has been wax and grease removed or clean, and this is not. You can tell the difference there in the panels. So still got a little bit of cleanup to do, but we are very close, and we're getting ready to lay some color on this Tacoma. This is the Barcelona red mica. I think it's the 3R3 is the color, in case you're wondering. That is a factory color. It's going back to the original color, so we won't be doing door jams. And yes, I will put filters back here on my fan. I will put filters. I know you guys are 3 wheels is polluting the environment. No, I got filters somewhere. I gotta find them. They're in the shop. I did go ahead and tape up the whole top of the bed. Just pull some plastic over that. Got the back of the window taped up. And yeah, I did it for you guys. I went with the newspaper this time. I've got plenty of masking paper like that, but every once in a while we just go old school. So newspaper there on the sides. This front paper you can get at your hardware store. It's used for floor covering. It's a very heavy paper. I highly recommend it for large glass areas, or for open areas like here where I blocked in or masked in the area where the headlight goes. It's very stiff paper. It doesn't flex a lot, so when you hit it with your air, it's not going to like collapse in on you and make a whole bunch of mess. So that's the reason I like to use that paper. Use a combination of plastic and paper around the truck. If you use plastic, make sure you pull it really tight, because if you don't, you can have dust flap off of that and fly off of that, and it'll fly back into your clear coat. Most of the time you won't notice it in your base coat, but you definitely can tell when you're clear. Make sure your plastic's tight to keep that from happening. I think that's it. I'm excited. This one's going to be fun. I'm really excited to get this truck painted. Oh yeah, so if you didn't see the short video, I'll just go ahead and mention right quick. This bumper cover had been replaced. The light on this side had been removed. One of the tabs was broken. There were screws missing out of the fender flare and the mudguard at the back. There were parts missing, which tells me this thing was apart at some point in time. This truck was sold brand new. I think the owner said it had 8 or 10 miles on it when he bought it. So obviously something happened before it got to the dealership or at the dealership. One of the two. It was involved in some sort of incident or something, because you don't just have parts missing and parts in the wrong spot. Definitely had been a part before. The other thing is on this bumper cover right here. When I hit this with the pressure washer, clean it off a week or so ago, the paint peeled off in this area right here. It just flaked right off. And you can see right there, this is where the pressure washer was hitting it, and that paint just peels right off the bumper. I've never seen that on an OEM spray bumper cover before. Tells me it was probably painted at some point in time. Despite what they say, despite what they claim, this truck had to have been touched by somebody else other than the original factory, because there's just no way that your paint peels off. I mean, unless you're 90s GM. Alright, well, with that said, I'm going to set the camera up on a tripod, go ahead and wipe this thing down. We're going to get some sealer on the top and on the hood, and then we will get ready to put some base coat down. Alright, so we decided to pause this video because sometimes things just don't go as planned. I started with the R500 on the top of the cab of the truck, and 3 passes in, I basically got the band across the top, went down the side, and my fan shrank from about 12 inches down to 3. I knew I was in trouble, so I went ahead and swapped guns. I went to the clone of the Mark 1 Refinish Pro and finished up the rest of the sealer. I went to refill my can, or my cup, for the second time, and the sealer had separated for whatever reason, thinned out. I noticed it here. I didn't think too much about it because I was like, well, that's not really covering as well. This was a flat area, and it finished really well. No sags anywhere. Alright, so that came out pretty good. I had one bug land up there. I don't know where it came from. A bug or a piece of trash, so I sanded that out. Just 1000 grit real lightly. I'm going to go back over this with a tack cloth only. No wax and grease remover. Remember that. When you put down sealer, tack it only. Now, I said this sealer thinned out. Look at what happened on the side up here. It was that thin. Typically sealer never does that. I'm not sure what happened. I probably should have put a mixer in the actual paint bucket or paint can. I put it on my mixer, my shaker. I guess it just didn't break it up enough. I stirred it up with a stick. It did better the first time, but then as I came across, it started thinning out. So I got some sags there. And back here on the tailgate, sags right there. Really weird. You see, I got a nice finish there. It's kind of spotty. And I got a sag right there and right there. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. The main reason it's unfortunate is now I got to go back and fix it. But I'm just going to show you guys a little trick. Sorry, I got the fan going. Now the reason I have the fan going in here is because if I shut that fan off, bugs will fly back through the fan inside the shop. I don't want any bugs in here. I got my filters. I'll put them back on. To fix these drips or runs or sags, now there's a couple things I could have done. One thing I could have done is I could have come through here with it wet and just wiped it with a rag, but potentially would have damaged the base coat. So I'm going to sand this with 1000 grit, but before I do that, I've got a plastic razor blade. These won't damage your finish, but they will remove these sags. So just take your plastic razor blade right through there, and you can see it lightly peels that up. And if you look underneath, it doesn't leave a lot of residue. And these are slightly damp, so I can scrape up the heavy edge that's left, like so. And once I've got all those off of there, I'm going to go back with my DA interface pad and some 1000 grit. Give me a little buffer. Just going to work over this real slow. And the reason I'm working over it slow is that I don't want to damage any of the work I've already done. So that gets those off of there. Now, of course, I took all this extra time taping and prepping, and I have something goofy like that happens, and it's like, man, what the heck? But it happens. So there you go. There's your little plastic razor. I want to say I found these from TCP. Let me check real quick. Yep. TCP Global has these. There's the part number. And yeah, they come in handy. I used to use them for scraping windshields and stuff, but this plastic razor is soft enough that it won't damage your paint if you're real careful. So you don't have to worry about cutting into the paint, but it will remove a run or a sag before it hardens completely, and you end up with a bigger mess on your hands. So you can see it just peeled that off and still left the primer there, which is awesome. because this will save you a ton of time and sanding. There's that one there, and then we got these right here. Okay, I'm gonna sand that down. Let me grab my pad. Now you can use 600, you can use 800. I've got 1,000 grit right here on top of this interface pad. I'm just gonna kind of work it back and forth across the area, nice and easy. The area where it was clear, but transparent. See, there's a little bit of a sag right there, just a little line. Just gonna work that back and forth. Take it down. Careful not to go too heavy. Now you can get your DA out and do this, but doing it by hand creates a little bit less dust. And since I'm going to have to tack cloth all this down, I'm going to do a little, at least, we want to do the least amount of dust as possible. Now I'm probably going to have to get a hard block just so I can knock this edge out here. Then we'll feather it out with this. Definitely want to keep you some paper on a roll handy. 60 all the way up to, I think this is 400 or 320. Use this real easy on a hard block or a soft block. This is a soft block here. This is a little firmer soft block. So use one of these, a little bit of paper, you can work it out. Alright, so here's the result on the Tacoma. Finished pretty good. Pretty good. Looks better than it did from the factory. Definitely have our gloss back. Let's take a look up top here. Got some solvent pop. I'm not sure why. Only on the top. Kind of weird. Have to address that. Aside from that, she came out pretty good. Pretty good. So definitely looked better than she did. And yes, the hood. If you're wondering why I did not clear the hood, let's see. There was a drop of primer that I thought I sanded out. It is right there. Oh, there it is. Let's see. Right there. There's a drop of primer there. And there were some scratches over on this side of the hood that transferred through the primer. I just didn't like the way they were laying, the way they looked. So I'm gonna sand the hood back down. I'm gonna fix this side and get those little drips of primer that got sprayed over. I did sand it down, so I'm not sure why those drips of primer showed up, but they showed little rings. So I'm gonna take that back down, and then I'll probably seal this side of the hood again, and we'll paint and clear the hood at the same time. And also we're going to take care of this bumper cover. Threw some clear on there, but there was some burn through, like right there where there's kind of black showing through the red. So I'm going to go back and fix that one, and was thinking there was one on this side, but it may have covered. Yeah, I think this one over here covered up pretty good, but the other one's kind of obvious, so I'll take care of that. There's a little burn through on that handle right there, so I'm gonna come back and fix that handle. I think that was it. I had a drip in the side of the bed right there. You can see it drip or not, but I did have a drip right there, and that wasn't a run. That was actually a drip in the, a drip from my cup. Came back making my pass across the top of the cab, and somehow it dripped right here. 2 drips in the same spot, the only place on the whole truck. I finally found out there's a little spot on the cup where it meets the gun where apparently it was leaking, and if you held it just the right angle it would increase the leak, but otherwise it didn't leak at all, so it took me a little bit to find that, but I did locate that. Aside from those little nuances, and there's a little bit of shadow of the TRD, it's kind of hard to see, but it's a little shadow there. I didn't go heavy on the base, like I said, I was just trying to even out the color. So he's going to put the badges back on, make it a little bit easier to put that on there. You can kind of see there's a little bit of a TRD shadow. Maybe the camera's picking it up, maybe not. But the pinstripes, all that disappeared pretty well. No complaints there. And if it hadn't been for the incident on the hood, I did have one little nick in this fender. So I'm going to take this fender back down. I'm going to fix that little area there once everything's dried up. And this is pretty good off the gun. I mean, yeah, it looks OEM. I did not use the MV1. I used the Mark 1 Refinish Pro. So it didn't atomize quite as much. Now granted, I think I was at about 27 PSI. I usually run about 29 to 30, 31. So I definitely need a little bit more air pressure. My regulator's at 105. And it was showing 90 at the gun. So kind of pushing the limits of the gun. They should have really no more than 90 at your gun. It's just an airflow issue. But aside from that, this looks a whole lot better than she did. And the yeah, no more peel and clear coat. Probably have to do something about flow coating the top of this thing because of that solvent pop. I don't ever get fisheye, and it was extra clean, and I used a tack rag, so maybe I shouldn't use the tack rag. Should have just gone sealer, base, and clear. Oh yeah, the tailgate repair. That's right. Back here on the tailgate, we had a dent that was over here on this side, and that came out good. Yeah, the dent's gone. No dent at all. Nice. This came out pretty good. I decided not to hit it one more time. Basically, the whole truck got 3 coats of clear, or 2.5 coats of clear, and the tailgate got about, well, it's 2.5. So came out good. You can see me right there. Yeah, you can see me. Got a little reflection. This is not show quality. This is OEM quality. So that's what we were going for. And the finish came out really well. I mean, I'm happy with that. So, thanks for watching this video on painting the 2018 Tacoma. This is the Barcelona red. In the next video, we are going to fix this area here on the hood, that area on the fender, and figure out what I'm going to do with that solvent pot. That should be fun. My name's Erwin. This Thrills in a Block. We're giving back, but time is taken away. We'll see you soon.